Well, good morning again, guys. Well, here we are to try something else a little bit new. The other two or three things we tried didn't seem to work that well, so we'll try something else. Here's a little test. I thought I'd do a little test first before I do anything else. Two formers, with the clip together system, so I shall have a look and see. Now, the idea is to fit these clips in and just glue them in place. They just slip in and glue. Just a little dab of glue just to hold them in place, really, whilst we slip them through the other slots. Okay, they're just glued into place. As I say, that's just so that when we slip it through the other former, they're not going to push themselves back. So we would then normally glue that into the fuselage section, and this would be glued into the other fuselage section, and then we simply push the two together like so. And as you can see, they're stepped. Then we would push that down like so. Give it a little tap when it's in the fuselage, it would probably be much easier. There we go, and then of course the fibre would go through and stop it from sliding back out. So that's basically the very simple setup. If possibly a good idea to do a test like this before you actually glue them into the fuselage sections, just to make sure that everything fits. If it feels a little bit tight, you could always just use a little sander and just sand a little bit off these little clips. I'm going to repair the Taube fuselage. I've cleaned up the two ends. So this would be like it would be if I'd had the formers on in the first place. This is the new section I've printed. I've glued the one former in there, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to first of all glue the tabs into this and test fit there before I actually glue any more in, before I glue this then into that section of the fuselage. So again, I'm going to take the little tabs, I'm going to glue them in place like so. Maybe a little bit more glue this time because the other one came apart. All you have to do is just make sure that you glue these in the right way. making sure that they're actually sticking out into the out of the fuselage, so that when that's glued onto the fuselage like that, it's these sections are sticking out like that. Okay, so now I'll do a test fit with this part onto here before I actually glue it in there, to make sure that it fits okay, and if necessary I'll just get a file and just file a little bit off the backs of these little tabs, like so, just to loosen it up a bit if it needs to be. So, give it a try. And then that slips in there like so, and then we simply push that down, and then of course the carbon fibre tube will slide in and lock it in place. That fits okay, so now that's what would happen if, in the event that this part got broken, we could simply lift off that part and make whichever part needs to be replaced. So, okay, now we'll make sure this fits in here okay, which it does. That's glued in place. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a little more glue on these, just to hold them in place. I don't want them coming off. I don't want them coming off once they're inside the fuselage. Sounds like one of my batteries is fully charged. And what I'll do also is I'll do the same thing with this. This is the other end former. I've made these formers fairly slim, so they're very, very light. So I'll glue these in. Just make sure when you do this, on my test piece, which was this one here, I found that when I slipped it into the other former, I hadn't let the glue set quite, and when I tried to get it apart, of course, it had actually glued itself to the other former. So just make sure when you do this, like this one I've just put glue on, make sure the glue is fully dried before you actually start sliding the parts together, otherwise you'll glue the parts together and we're back to square one again. So, okay, so anyway, so I'll glue this part in here now the glue is probably set and fixed okay, and we'll glue that in there, and then we'll do a test on that part. Any excess glue. Once again, I'm going to make sure that is completely dry before I attempt to put the two parts together, otherwise I'll just glue the two parts together and then we'll be back to square one again. Need a little bit of sanding there, just protruding a little bit. That's because the reason that's protruding is because This was a cut joint and it may not have been exactly as it should have been when I cut the joint. That's quite a nice fit now. Now I can pull out the servo wires so I can feed them through into the next part. And we'll give this a try. That's the servo wires through there. Okay. Here comes the test. That's the thing into the clips and then push. And there we go. Now that is a strong joint. Once we slide in the carbon fibre tubes, once we slide in the carbon fibre tubes into the joint, there's no way that's coming apart. There's no way that's going to come apart now. Until, should in the event that we have an accident that gets broken, we'll simply pull out the carbon fibre tubes and if I remember which way they went together, we can slip the two parts and then we can add on whichever part is broken. So making sure that you get the tabs facing downwards. That's a good lesson to be learnt. Make sure that the tabs are facing the side with a lip. There's a lip there. A little lip there to make sure that the former doesn't go too far into the fuselage section. I did them without the tabs and it's very difficult to get the former to sit exactly level with the front, so I've put this little lip on each former now and it just slides in and locks into place and it fits very nice now. But we have to make sure that these tabs are facing down, hook down, and they're all four facing the same way. Luckily I managed to get them out before it dried too much. There we go, they're the tabs into the former. Just make sure that they're glued in quite well because we don't want them pushing out or tipping to one side when we slide them into the matching former. And before I glue this into the fuselage, I'm going to do a test again, make sure it fits and it's not too tight or too loose. Well, that slips in quite well, and then we slide that down, so that's a nice lock fit. That fits quite nice, so now we can lock that into, we can glue that into the fuselage there, and that into the fuselage there. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Just using a very light film of glue, doesn't have to be too much. This. The beauty about this, about having this lip, is the fact that you can't actually push the former in too far, or it doesn't twist. Before I put this lip on, I found it was very difficult to get this former into place. It would slip in too far at one side or the other side, but doing it like this, it fits very well. Now, the fact that there's a lip on there, there's a little bit of a lip, so what I'm going to do is just simply sand that off, make it nice and flat. It's only a very, very thin lip, so it doesn't take much sanding to bring it back. It's really nice now. It's really nice. So I'll glue this one into there. That. Just wipe off the excess. Once again, I'll just sand around just on the lip there, nice and smooth. Okay, well, once again we'll give that a try now. Make sure it fits, which it does, and then slip the two joints together and then push. That's locked in place. Once again, once we slide the carbon fibre tubes into place, it locks in and it can't move. Okay, so that's actually a nice joint, although I do say it myself, it's probably the best so far. It seems to lock together nice, and it comes apart quite nice. So, okay, put the fuselages together. So what we're going to do now is I've got the servo wires through and slip them into the slots like so, and then push the together like so. Last joint. And we'll fit the servo wires through there. And then we'll lock that section in place. Like so. Just lock that in place like so, then push that down like so. And that's a nice, and then we can slide in the I'm not sure what size. I thought this was a smaller. Anyway, so we can then slide in the carbon fibre tubes right through. Like that, and now we've got a fairly solid joint again.